हेलो हेलो वो लाइव हो रहा है यार फिनिश ओके अब मुझे लाइटिंग करने दो थोड़ी सी ओके ठीक साला बाउंस करना चाहिए फूक शिट यार ओके चलो जी शुरू कर रहे हैं सो आज तू फैजल निसार सीमा शर्मा ये कौन है भाई मैं तो जान ओके लेट अस स्टार्ट हेलो गुड इवनिंग I'm supposed to do kind of a brief history of Indian theatre, which is quite complicated to do it in such a short span of time, but I'll try somehow to give you a sense of what Indian theatre is all about and where it started, where it is today. I'm not a historian, I must tell you. I am a director, actor, and a teacher of dramas, but it's not my specialized field of it. But to begin with, to give you a sense of cultural landscape of India, you know, mostly what happens, anything that happens in the India doesn't mean that New Delhi and Bombay. I'm talking of the vast majority of India is in the rural India, and where what happens there is that every festival is connected to the agricultural cycle. Either it will be at the time of sowing or at the time of harvest, mostly. Now you must have seen Baisakhi happening, Pongal happening, and a lot of rituals and cultural events happening at that time. Similarly, when it is harvest, you will see Dashera happening, Diwali happening, and many other festivals happening, which have regional. Some are very, kind of pan-Indian festivals. Some are typical to a region, and in that is quite a old stuff that is happening. Villagers do it, village artists do it, and those artists are really artists, they're professional artists. They are trained by generation after generation. There is no kind of we go to school and we learn acting. They learn from their father and son, and special families, special castes are who take this up job. It is their ancestral art, and they keep on learning from father to son, and have kept it going on till now, what we have. Now, today when India is, it's a really complex mosaic for me, to be honest. And when I was looking at the old forms and looking at the new forms, I couldn't decode much of the old things, why they are doing this, why it is happening. So I had to dig it up a bit. And you realize the story of India's cultural scene, which is a performance area scene, is from the rituals, from the festivals, from performing primitive theatre. There is this two kind of stories about it. One, if you go to a Pandit tells you, oh, the God gave us that. I'll tell you later that story. There is a proper story which has been told how drama came into existence. It's a very funny story, in fact, but it has a lot of understand the form. But when you look at it a little bit rationally, actually, you realize that actually people were primitive here. They were doing primitive. They believed in ritual. They believed in magic, and to believe disease away, there will be certain kind of rituals that will be happening. For example, when they used to go hunt, they will hunt and get the hunt, and in the evening the tribe will sit together, they will have a fire in the center, and they will enact the entire piece of how they hunted this animal or this beast. Similarly, as some centuries passed, these hides are there already. They start wearing those hides, and that's like a costume or a head or a horn, some kind of a representation of that. And you will see still when it is the tribal stage of life, tribal life, you will see it at that level, that in the evening they'll meet together, they will share this whole feast together, and they will enact this piece. And it could be somebody's uh, wishes also being fulfilled. They pray to nature. They want nature to be good to them. They want to have a son, so they will have one ritual. They want to get married, there's another ritual. And rituals sort of are decorated with these cultural events. Now, there was a great philosopher, scientist, and a cultural thinker called Didi Kosombi. You must have heard his name. In his book called India's Culture and Civilization, he quotes a wonderful line. It has hit my head a little since I read it, that India still lives simultaneously in all the centuries. And that is a fact. Whatever I'll tell you, you will see it from the tribals of Chhattisgarh and even Jharkhand, living in those little leafy huts and doing all these rituals and magics and dances around them, hides make them drums, to the rocket age. You go to ISRO and you see we are there. But the fact is they are simultaneously there. Therefore, the records of what was past, fortunately, is still there. It may have a little bit, distorted itself, it was changed a bit with time passing, but more or less, somewhere it is still the same. What is there the same is there is ritual. In that ritual there is music. In that music there is a dance, and there is pantomiming. They imitate animals, they imitate the king's hunter, and they imitate that. And the element of acting starts coming to that. And as the society grows, it gets a little bit more enriched, more complex. First it will be 2 actors, 3 actors, and then after that there will be more groups. You have group dances. When you see doing Dhinsa dance, you see Chhattisgarhi Satnami dance. Simple movements. But the rhythms they create, simple rhythms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. All these patterns, who made them? Who were the professors or the gurus who did it? It was again from the people it was to come. And when you see it happening in various regions, in a regional variations, and there came a stage when some people started collecting it together and trying to make a better performance of it. Better minds come and they make a performance out of it. And when that performance happened, then the language walked in. First was sound and music, a language walked in. And you see gradually a certain, it's not just, it's thousands of years later, as a text moves in and you have coming of society, becoming empires and becoming, highly developed, agricultural development, metal comes in, and you see playwrights happening. And this whole period must have taken almost 1500 years. The journey from the primitive to the enactment of the piece, right, finally reading the text. Now, in this, there's a story about that, when the agriculture came, the Aryans came, the Vedas came. When the Vedas came, in those Vedas, there are stories. There are battle scenes. What battle? There must have been 20 people fighting a big battle, but its description is very poetic, very poetic. And you see, then Puranas started appearing, Bhagavad Purana or other Puranas, and those stories also became a dramatic structure, started coming up. Now poets started walking in, you can call him more or less a playwright who wrote Puranas, and text starts emerging from there. And the society grows again much better, and you have Hinduism on one side, you have Buddhism on the other side. I'm talking about the BC. And that happens, there's a tussle between the two. There are a lot of stories you must have heard about how Hindus attacked the Buddhist temples, and how Buddhists, had to. There were empires of Buddhist empires. If you dig anywhere in North India, anywhere, then you will find mostly Buddhist things. Even Afghanistan, Buddhism. And at that time, there were playwrights. This came to known to us much, much, much later. There was a playwright, a Buddhist playwright called Ashwaghosh. And it was found in Tibet somewhere. So, somebody went there, I think it was Rahul Sangeet, who was there for many years, collecting things, researching and studying and documenting things, photographs, writing. He did a monumental work in this. And we, at that time, a lot of our stuff had already got lost. It has been found very recently, maybe what, 200 years back. It's not much. For example, the playwright like Bhas was not known till 125 or so. It was by accident that Bhojpatra manuscripts were found in Kerala somewhere, and once they opened those plays and they found there are 14 plays written by a man called Bhas. Now, Bhas was only mentioned by Kalidas in his prologue of one of his plays, that Bhas Pandita mentions him, he dedicates the play to him or something like that. And you start looking at the plays, and the material Bhas is, these are prahasans, short plays, not the major plays like Kalidas will write huge plays or Bhagavati write, Vishakadas write plays. Prahasans, small plays, but 6 of them are only on Mahabharata. Then suddenly you realize, looking at those plays talk about anti-war. There is this play called Urubhangam play, and in that Urubhangam play, what does he do? He breaks the rules of the Natya Shastra. Now, what is Natya Shastra? I'll come a little bit later. Breaks the rules, which is like a Bible of India's culture, India's performing arts. It is really great work of sages who have done this work 1,000 years back or so. And out of that, you can't kill a person on the stage. But Bhas kills Duryodhana on stage. It was the first violation. In fact, that time it must be a blasphemous to do that kind of a thing. But it was possible to do that. Well, now we don't know what will happen to us if we do that. Then, well, this was happening before this a little bit. After the rituals were happening, after the folk dances started coming, the stories of the valor came in. Ballads started coming in, legends starting, heroic deeds, the wars. They were composed into form of what you call ballads, long katha, which will be sometimes enacted by some people and sung, or only enacted. Or there will be sometimes musicians with it, and with the musicians there will be a main lead singer who will sing it. You will see it is still prevalent in rural India. Like you have in Chhattisgarh, you have, it's called Elizabethan Theatre, to sing this form, and where he leads the story. 14 days he sings this Mahabharata story. Or you have Bura Katha in Andhra Pradesh. You have Bubuli Katha, 3 people telling the story, of 3 actors enacting it, interpreting it, on the spot, improvising it, text mostly oral, not written yet, and still that oral tradition is still being continued like that. There are no textbooks you take from here and there. These are typical, their interpretations of Ramayana, Mahabharata, local kathaएं, local gathaएं, heroes, legends, all kinds of things, folk people. Now, one thing I would like to tell you, therefore, after that, when the Sanskrit plays start happening and you have Gupta Empire, you have simultaneously Natya Shastra appears. Now, Natya Shastra, it has all kind. It's a huge book of 82 chapters on acting, on dance, on architecture, on aesthetics, on walks and dances, music, all kinds of ragas, everything. How you walk, detailed book. In fact, one of the finest books on dramaturgy, I would say, is that book. It holds, even today, contemporary people, I hold it much better for actors, guiding them to understand. For that, I'll tell you, the material that was happening in the plays that time, we had 2-3 things. There was Ramayana, there was Mahabharata, and there was one fat book. You can go to library and you will see it called Katha Sarit Sagar. It is like Arabian Nights, written in Kashmir by some Kashmiri Pandit, and it has folk stories, imagine folk. And that was the raw material which these writers used to take, whether it was Bhas, whether it was Kalidas, whether it was Bhagavati and all those people, they take and they used to write plays. When you look at the play, text tells you something about the times, what the times were like, how they were interpreting those legends which were already there, and how much sense of theatricality comes into them. Now here I would like to tell you one thing about the theatricality. Asian sensibility and Indian sensibility particularly is very, very different from the sensibility of performance in the Western drama. West takes its origin from the Greeks, which me personally feel, I don't think it's right to put them in the West, but it is a tradition, they accept it. Then there was Aristotle who wrote poetics for them. And poetics, he created the theory of conflict and which was protagonist, antagonist, and the crisis and climax and the catharsis. But the Greeks, they believed it was the religion they were believing in, that it had the same kind of a belief like Indians, that whatever you sow in this world, your child will repent it later, like that. It was based on karma, like ours. But in Sanskrit drama, it was a different ball game altogether. It was not conflict. It was emotions. By emotions, what I mean, which Natya Shastra underlines completely. Emotions was, which you see in music today, you see it in dancers doing it, but that theatre has disappeared. So you can't see it in theatre, but in performance you'll see, is that if it is a combination of now rasas, now 9 emotions. The ultimate idea was, there was catharsis. Here it was to create ananda, to create, kind of a peace with yourself, sense of, it was, in fact, they will call it anandamai chetana, the kind of peace descends on you after you're gone through all these emotions. Now the execution of those emotions by actors and musicians and the directors and whosoever is working in the production is very special, which is very different from what you see in Western drama, Western films and other things. That is, they have a linear structures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We don't have that. We don't follow that. We have a structure which is like a spring, a revolving spring. It goes up and it can bounce. What does it mean? It means it's very free. When I say it is free, it bounces. In kinds of emotions, if you must have heard, I'll give a simple example of you to understand this journey of emotions in a play. When you see a great musician today, say Bhimsen Joshi or anybody today, and he sings a rag, he does not sing a song, he does not sing words. He has 1 line or 2 lines or 3 lines. For 4 hours he's spending in exploring for 3 hours all kinds of emotions, sub-emotions, sub-emotions of that 4 words. Like Piya Garanai. And the young people get very upset. What is Piya Garanai? Come on, get out of it. Because go ahead. Why are you there all the time? But he does not return the same way every time. Every time you'll see him, it's a variation. And what that is not worked out on paper at home. That is what this Indian aesthetics and Indian it's right there and spontaneous. His audiences are in front of him and he improvises it. And if the talmail, what you call the connect between audience and him sets in and it starts one tune, he reaches that, then he goes and explores the whole ocean of emotions. And those are all rasas. They are moods, they're colors, and each color is associated with some kind of an emotion and gives that. Example, I'll give you another example. I saw a play in Kerala, in Koodiyattam. Koodiyattam is still a living Sanskrit theatre performance company in the temples of Kerala. It's called Koodiyattam. They still do Bhasas plays and they do some Kerala plays. But according to the Natya Shastra, the acting is on the Natya Shastra. I'll go to Natya Shastra a little bit later. But before that, I want to make you understand what this emotion business is. It's abstract. It is, for example, when I saw this play, it is a play of Ravan is sitting and his Lanka is burning in front of him. And I at least saw it for half an hour, 30 minutes, only acting with his eyes. disbelief that my langa is burning, and you, with that eyes, just only eyes, with his eyes, believe me, I was almost in tears at one point when I saw, he can't believe it. Half an hour from one emotion through his eyes to another, how, what training must have gone into his, in making of this actor. And his disbelief, his anger, his defeat, his humiliation, all kinds of ocean of emotions just through his eyes. And therefore, performance that time is not only drama and story is not moving, it's the emotions that are moving, which you see sometimes in greatest animals. It's not where you see them going from incident to incident. The visual takes place, and the way he brings the emotional element into it. Sometimes there may not, like if you have seen the film of, say, Ritir Ghatak, or if you have seen films of Tarkovsky, you will see camera is capturing almost earth. Every text cell of the actor. They move their camera. There's a special way of moving camera, special way of using those lenses. Similarly, the reverse happens. Here the actor is using all his experiences, all his training, his learning or training to bring these emotions out. But as time goes, Sanskrit drama had its peak with Kalidas, Bhas, Bhavabhuti, great experiments, brilliant experiments in the plays. In terms of what you see sometimes, if you look, Uttaramchari, this is one of the plays, and if you see the technique, Ram is looking at the exhibition of his Banvas. Somebody has done his own art gallery, he's moving with Sita. It's on them what they have experienced. And there's no painting there. It is through the acting of the actor you get the whole emotions of each visual. They create those visuals for you as actor, but as also as a painting. Therefore, the illusion and the real. And you see that experiments happened 1,000 years back is amazing. Those great writers could do it. Now, there were plays on politics also. There's this play called Vishakadatta wrote a play, only one play, I don't know, he must have written great plays, but only one has survived, and that is called Signatoring, which is called Mudra Rakshas. It's about a Chanakya and the Rakshas. On Chandragupta Maurya's time, there's turmoil in Magad and how he gets Rakshas, and it is all about espionage. Rakshas is from the Aimini camp, Chanakya is from the other camp, how each camp is, using espionage techniques to outsmart the other. And when, it's a beautiful way, and when they realize, say for example, Chanakya realizes, this is what he is doing, he loves him, he praises him. He says, not like the villains, this, no. He praises, brother, sadhu, appreciates his qualities. Now it's a different way of looking at things. And by the time the Rakshas is caught, finally, Chanakya wins him, he catches him, arrests him. And Rakshas says, fine, now you have done it and you chop my head off. That's what it is all about. We have been rivals. And with folded hands, Chanakya goes in front of him. He says, no, I want you to take over this position and save this kingdom. I know you love this kingdom, and I want to go myself to Kashi or somewhere. Now it's a different kind of, but at that 1,000 years back, they can use this espionage techniques, all kind of techniques, magicians, medicants, all kinds of people giving information, but all of them basically working for one camp or the other. Now, little bit about, before I move forward, on Natya Shastra. I said that there's a book. It's written, is a Bible of performance theory in India. It is the grammar of that, and many people have written on it. For example, in those times there was a great philosopher, saint, we saints only a Pandit, called Abhinav Gupta in Kashmir. He wrote a commentary on Natya Shastra. And like that, many, many great scholars of Sanskrit have written, and even now, in English, for example, Kapila Vatsayana has written a book, brilliant book on Arthashastra in English, which you can get. It is a Sangeet Academy publication. You can get it anytime. It's a very cheap also. But what is this book all about? It has chapters on acting, on dance, on music, on architecture, on percussion, on talas. It's a huge book. And when you read it, sometimes I try to read, it's quite a massive, it's a Mahabharata. Sometimes I realize there is a lot of contradiction in between. So you realize it's not one author. It cannot be one author. It's a tradition, might be a family of writers where one left and another person joined it, and this book has come to us. Now, in this book, what is really interesting for us in theatre is there's a chapter on acting. An acting chapter, I love that definitely. They define acting in 4 different points of acting. One is angik. Angik is with the ang, which is with the body, which means eyes, head, nose, everything, entire body, angik. And this is also applied to dancers also. Okay, then you have vachik. Vachik means vachan. It's called vachana. But it does not mean only dialogue. It means sound. You create a lot of sounds. That cannot be only of actors. But on Sanskrit drama, there are musicians sitting next to it. They are also there. Their sounds, their sound effects, and then the ambience they build, and whatever they do it. It is vachik. Now, the third is ahari. Arya is the stage decoration, costume designing, ahari. Ahari jo aap pehante hain, which is decoration part of it. That is there. Then the last is called the satvik. Now this to me is the most important. You may achieve angik, you may achieve vachik, going angik by going to all kinds of yogas and acrobatics and kalaripattu, and you will do tai chi and others and get all body controls and everything under you. Vachik, you may do your voice exercises, music exercise, singing exercises, and mantra exercise, recitations, great speeches of great playwrights. You have done that. The ahari, all you are deliberately designed. Rama is to be designed, 10 heads Ravan is to be designed, and that happens. But ahari satvik it has no physical form. Normally, crude way of talking about it, they define it. It is a confluence of these 3, angik, vachik, and ahari. Once they are correct, satvik will happen. I don't think that is correct. Satvik is something which is abstract, like a fragrance of a rose. An actor reaches to a point of his skills, of his genius, when he does not need to do much. In fact, in traditional Japanese theatre, no, they call actor has reached a flower stage. When actors, his really presence makes things so beautiful. And it is like that fragrance which comes from stage to the auditorium, and mind you, it goes back to stage. That rapport is set, and in which we call the rasiks, and the rasiks know what it is all about. So you see, actor, what happens that you get upset in the auditorium? You're in a dark hall auditorium, it is all black, and suddenly something like actor does, and you feel so good, or you feel like crying. He doesn't do anything, there's air in between. What is there? There's nothing in between. That is satvik. You walk into a garden, and there are all flowers, and suddenly you can smell flower, rose beds. In spring it happens, you go to gardens and you will see, it's that fragrance. That satvik, which is, and you see, when you say about actors, I'll say, okay, in India, who is satvik, who has reached the satvik stage? He might be handsome, with 6 packs, and has he reached a satvik stage? That is to be decided who will do that. Now, then there is a chapter on auditorium structure, architecture. according to Sanskrit drama, there are three stage variations. One is a square, one is a rectangular, and one is a triangular. And each play, there are different kinds of play. Full-length play like Kalidas Shakuntalam or Mudra Rakshas, or you have this Ramcharitramanas. These are full-length back plays. It needs a lot of actors. The square stage or rectangular stage will be good for it. But we have a small plays, like there are plays called Bana, which are satires, small satires, monologues, 3 actors, 2 actors, as triangular stage is good for them. And why they do that? That you do not waste space. You're conscious of the space. Sanskrit drama was very, very conscious of the concept of space, whether it's a physical space or it's an abstract space. It was very conscious about that. And you'll see the piece of land, say, suppose it is this piece of land, this paper. Natya Shastra says, you have to build an auditorium in this my space. He says, divide it by 50-50. One portion completely goes to stage, this much, and one portion goes to auditorium, where people will sit. Now look at your own stages today. We don't have hardly 10, 20%, 15% is given to stage. Therefore, contemporary theatre directors like us, we feel crippled. It's not possible to do complex performances there. They have nothing to offer to us. But 125 years back, Moscow makes a theatre called Moscow Art Theatre by Stanislavski, who was a great master, a great actor guru, and with Chekhov and others, they work, Gorky worked there. Their stage is exactly in 2 parts, like Natya Shastra has. Half goes to this and half goes, because so much engineering, so much things you have to do backstage. How do you do that? Where is the space for that? That you have to create. That is what this theatre will do for that. So leaving at that, Natya Shastra and its thousands years, great work happened, and then somehow I think the empires disappeared in India. So do the writers, so the theatre people, actors disperse all over. We don't. Now, in fact, there's almost a blackout of Sanskrit drama after some time, and we don't have playwrights after that. However, gradually here and there we find still plays. I just found a play, Abode of Religions, recently 7th century play is with me, and I'm reading it. And another thing that I would like to think the Sanskrit drama was just a drama of devotional things, no. It was political, it was status quo, it was anti-status quo, it was humor, it used to rub rulers on the wrong side all the time. Hence, it was a vibrant political kind of a movement at that time. If you look at Mrichikatikam play, that there's a character called Shakar, who is a brother-in-law of the king, and he wants women, he attacks women, he has the roads and things like that. It's, you see, almost a gunda of today, because he knows his brother-in-law is a king. He can't do it. Then once it disappears, what happens? Regional areas are still there, villages are still there, and something grows there, and that is folk theatre of India, which is, I think China has it, and India, I think. In every region of India, every region has its own school of drama. School of drama. It's very different from Kashmir has a school of drama, a folk drama theatre you call, it's called Bhandapat. You come to Punjab, it is Nakal. You go to Rajasthan, it's called Khayal. You go a little bit down to Gujarat, is Bhawai. You go a little bit ahead to Maharashtra, and you'll see it is Tamasha. You go down to Karnataka, it is Yakshigan. You go to Andhra Pradesh, and you have there you have this Tirukuttu. No, they have Babuli Katha, Burak Katha, and you go to Bengal, you have Jatra. You go to UP and Hindi states, you have Nautanki. Every regional entity, every regional culture has its own school of drama. What do I mean by that school of drama? By that I mean they have their repertoire of their own plays. There's no common scripts between them. It is father to son, an oral tradition, and they have their own talas. Their instruments are different, and their musical scores are different, compositions are different, and the structure of performance, the form is different. Content may be sometimes, because they use Rama and Mahabharata and some local kathaएं or folk stories, that may be there. But rendering it, presenting it to the audiences are different ways, which means use of space, use of set design, use of rituals, and unfolding of the theme are done in a different way. That's why actor who is trained in Nautanki cannot act Yakshagan, and Yakshagan person cannot act Pahad Pathal. The way, because language may be there, but their trainings, their bodies are trained in different ways. But in that also there was a little classification which is very important to understand. Some of these folk forms which have survived till date, they are there. I call them 26 January forms because they only come to the nation. Nation remembers them only at 26 January festivals. And that time, in those forms, you'll see, many remained, in South particularly, remained very religious. Like we have Tirukuttu, Tamil Nadu, we have Yakshagan, we have Kathakali, we have Koodiyattam. They remained, but others, particularly North, did not. They had little bit of the religious themes in it, Ramayana, Mahabharata, but they took all new themes, all secular themes. The reason being, because North faced the aggression from the northwest frontier for many years, and new cultures came, new ideas came, new genres came, new way of rendering came, new concepts came, new music came, new instruments came. And they were assimilated by the locals, and they created this, their own form. Normally, most of these forms happen in open-air theatre in the villages. These are open-air forms. They are not. They are for the masses. But now comes the political angle to it. When Sanskrit drama was happening in those three theatres I told you, square, rectangular, and triangular, only Brahmins and Kshatriyas could go in. They were not allowed there, which was therefore a very, very reserved constituency of elites and other things, and therefore the common folks, the majority, the masses could never see it, never know it. But humanity does not stay there. Humanity does not stop. They use the same Natya Shastra methodology, same theme, same elements, but execute them in their regional colors, regional way, their way of doing. So you have today, Sanskrit drama is all finished, little bit of Koodiyattam is there, but you have enormous folk forms which are there for centuries with us. And in that, they will, in secular forms come from North India, Kashmir, they are very satire, they are very political, they are if they really come to the cities, they'll be arrested. They go to that. They're irreverent to gods, irreverent to politicians, irreverent to any establishment, and therefore they are more powerful. They have moved with the time. They are not fossilized. That's why I call them. They are very secular. They don't. Their art has not stopped. They adopt all the time new things, new ideas. They write new things. But what they write, they don't have writers. It's done through improvisation, verbal improvisations. Their memory and their wit and their presence of mind is phenomenal. On the spot, they will improvise a line. It should be any line of today. For example, I remember this Punaram Devangat, who was doing Padwani, ballad singing one day in Delhi, and he had to announce an interval between. What did he do? Krishna is running on the, Arjuna is on the chariot going to battlefield. He says, Arjun ki akal mein puncture ho gaya hai. They can change languages. They are not that way pure. Pandit pure is the bullshit pure. There's nothing pure actually. They are all the time open. They're experimental. They're very, very avant-garde. So they can take up, they don't have any problems. If the food suits them, they'll take the form. So folk theatre happened and it is still happening. Then came the British period and the Sultanate period, and only some kings kept mostly musicians. They didn't keep theatre people. That's why theatre went into villages again. It's rarely you see some king like, what was his name? Awadh ka Bacha Zafar, and what was his name? Shatranji Khiladi wala. And he had a company. He used to act himself. He used to do Ras Leela and things like that. That a lot of people at that time when folk theatre was still based on elements of Natyashastra thing. Unfortunately, first the first foreign invasion came and new things came, old things started disappearing. Sanskrit was not an official language. Persian came as a language. Urdu took over, and drama writers were not there. So after some time, a company theatre came, some Parsis came, they became the producers, and they started imitating the Western theatre. Shakespeare version of Parsi theatre, of King Lear, of Hamlet, and things like that. They'll be musical. Again, they will be using a lot of elements of Indian theatre, music, dance, pantomime, and other things. Here I would like to say one thing, that Indian actor or Asian actor is way, way different from Western actor. Western actor, he's a speech actor, he's different. There's a musical actor, different. They have a dance actor, different. They cannot cross. They have got these unions, equities, and other things. But Indian actor, by its very definition, is a very talented, total actor. He can sing, he can dance, he can do acrobatics, he can play instruments, he's a mask maker, he's a craft maker, and he carries the tradition that way. Therefore, it is not only in India, it is in fact in Asian, Malaysia and China and Southeast Asia. Their actors are like our actors. We are multidisciplinary actors. We don't believe in only one discipline, and I have to die by being a singing actor or a dialogue actor, and I cannot cross to do something else. In fact, there's a funny story about it. In 1984, BV Karanath, one of the very eminent theatre directors, had done Macbeth in this waveform, this music dance, It's a beautiful production. And it had to go for a Festival of India in England. And the people from there in charge came and wanted to see what they are taking from here, and they refused to take it. And they asked, why? It's one of our very major directors' production. It has been, press has raved about it. Saying, we can't have this. We can't have Shakespeare singing. It's not possible, and we will have equity problems, which means that our equity people, union people, will not allow actors singing and then also dancing and then also dialogue. So it could not go. So there are these cultural barriers which takes a lot of time to break. Now after that, if we come to British brought with them European model called Elizabethan Theatre, which is still with us. Whether it is Kamani Auditorium, whether it is Tagore Theatre, anywhere, it is a proscenium black box. We imagine there is not a fourth wall, and we are peeping through the fourth wall, right? And Parsi theatre worked in, and Western plays, Ibsen association was made in South India. It was more now to be a Macaulay's kid, to be learn good English. But what did it do? This colonialism is a lovely worm. It isn't such a virus which you have to understand, which makes you feel that your culture is inferior. Your mother tongue, it cannot carry that complexities of our language. It cannot communicate those things. Things like that. And only those people who could speak good English naturally went to colleges which were English medium colleges and performed Shakespeare or performed Elizabethan plays, which was Bhadralok Theatre in Bengal, Bombay, Parsis and Anglo-Indians, and there are also a lot of Bengali, Bhadralok Bengalis, they used to do it. But it was not our people's theatre. It was not our theatre. It was not talking about us. But if you remember, 1857 onwards, a simmering nationalism came into us, and we started looking at our own culture. We started looking at our freedom, first war of independence, and then we have struggle moves, Gandhi comes, and then lot of theatre people started writing plays, most important plays in 1870 or something, a play called Neel Darpan. It was on the indigo plantation workers of Champaran. And that play was written by one Bengali writer called Dinbandhu Mitra. When the 2-3 shows happened in Calcutta, it was immediately banned. And the Governor General immediately came with an act called Dramatic Performances Act. By that act, any dramatic work, performance can be banned, stopped, you can be put under prison, any kind of laws can be put under you, and you will be in the prison. And he enacted that law, play got banned, and things stopped. Now you should understand that Dramatic Performance Act is still intact in our constitution, and we can be arrested anytime under the similar act, like 124A Act, which is called the Sedition Act, under which Gandhi was arrested. And when he accepted guilty, he was given 6 years imprisonment for writing few articles. And that act also is still there. That is now used for a lot of civil liberty leaders here. And that time, because of the oppression coming, because of the freedom movement happening, writers started writing plays in a hidden way, in a way like there was a Nautanki written in which main leaders of India were represented as Panch Pandavas, so that British don't understand. It's a religious kind of a theme play, but it was talking about really about Bharat Mata and everything. Like you have Bhartendu Harishchandra coming with Bharat Durdasha and other plays, Andher Nagari Chopat Raja. And if you do it today, I plan to do it, there will be a lot of problem today doing that play, because it is anti-state, it is anti-king, it is anti-ruler. And the tradition of questioning, tradition of protest, tradition of political interpretation and politics of freedom started coming in. Until a lot of plays in South were written in their folk forms, which I talked to you. Now the folk form first time, well, they were not writing, they were apolitical in writing, suddenly started becoming very political and talking in people's language, in the language of the masses. And that was wonderful that time. It came out, some got banned, a lot of people were arrested, a lot of people continue doing, but it takes Gandhi to come. When Gandhi comes up, he gives a little kick to it. The Congress used to have those sessions called Congress sessions. After 4 years, they have this adivation. Even now, they have those adivations. And in one adivation, he called Nandalal Bose, one of the great painters, not that time. He said, look, I want you to decorate all this pandals. There will be huge campus. It's like a city they make. You take over. And he said, look, I'm not a big painter. I can't do that. He said, no, I don't. I want it in our local metaphors, local paint, our regional painting, our folk painting. Our past is so great. Why is not that being revived back? He said, I don't need a great master. I need a fiddler to do it. So Nandalal Bose does a wonderful job. And if you remember, there is one painting of his, Gandhi. It's a black background and a white chalk painting. It's a wonderful painting. It has been done by Nandalal Bose, which has become iconic in the art history of India. And then with that, started plays in fact, Gandhi has said at one point, it was surprising to me, Gaushala, Natishala, Patshala. That was one of his themes. So, in the regional India, people were writing plays for freedom struggle and doing for the freedom movement. And when the freedom movement came, before that, there was also a new political movement, a left political movement was taking place. And they were confronting Congress politics also. And then writers made a group called Progressive Writers Association of India, which was, now they are great writers today. If you look at it, Kafi was there, Sajjad Zahir was there, Rajendra Singh Bedi, Hangal Sahab was an actor, Deena Pathak was there, Zora Saigal, Uzra, Mrinal Sen, Ritvik Ghatak, MS Satyu, Salil Chaudhary. Think of anybody. They were part of Progressive Writers movement, which was the first time talking about that man's fate is man. Man can change man's fate. And you don't need any God's intervention, then it will happen like that. And it was naturally very left in its, communist in its. Munshi Premchand blessed it. He came for the first conference of it, and the manifesto was read, and he has endorsed what he wrote that time, what he said that time. Then, along with it came a brilliant movement called Indian People's Theatre Movement. It was a new movement. It was not anymore talking about Raja, Maharajas. Before that you will see plays, protagonist always used to be a royal person. Rani, Maharanis, kings, Badshahs. And it was the first time that common man was represented in the plays. And the first play, Bijan Bhattacharya, one of the very, very eminent theatre persons and writers of Bengal, wrote a play called Now Anna, Naya Anna, under the background of famine of 40s, where millions of Bengalis died. It was a man-made famine, and IPTA created not only the cultural movement, it created a political storm by collecting money, doing plays all over Bombay and sending it to the people of Bengal who were starving. In that moment, then, Balraj Sahni was one of the very important members of this group, while he was acting also, but his heart and soul was IPTA. And IPTA, they wrote plays, they made films, for example, Dobi Ka Zameen, or the film called Nicha Nagar. You must remember, Nicha Nagar was in 1936. This film is the only film in the history of Indian cinema which has got a golden palm at Cannes Film Festival. Till date, our heroes, haters go there, but they just on the red carpet taking photographs. Our films are never on the main competing section. We have never been able to repeat that. Marketing section, we can have our films, but not that. This was IPTA produced film. They put their own money into it, they acted in it, they directed it. That you will not believe it. It was directed by Chetan Anand. Can you believe it? Chetan Anand was directing it. After that, he didn't make a film like that. He made then mainstream movies. And then there was another person who was making films like on workers and persons, was K. Abbas. He did a lot of films he made. Then there was like a Dharti Ke Lal film. Then there was this film called Do Bigha Zameen. And a whole lot of Bengali filmmakers have created this new movement of cinema, which was actually inspired by the neo-realism of Italy. Italy had made a neo-realism, taking an interpretation of their fictional work, and they made a great film called Bicycle Thief. It was acted by non-actors. They would never have been acted. Similarly, you will see here, excepting Balraj Sahni, all of the people were there. It was de-glamorized, they glamorized the whole thing and created these films. But this movement was great till, I would say, 50s, late 50s, when Communist Party gets divided and things happen. You have Ritvik Ghatak, the great filmmaker, disillusioned. He didn't know where he belonged. Culture, how can you in the left? Culture cannot be this or I and M. It can't be that. And similarly, Saadat Hasan Mantu. he goes almost mad. He goes to Salem. Of course he got to Salem. He couldn't take it. And his entire short stories, you will see, most of the writing is about the partition and the pain of the partition. And after that, by the time there were playwrights writing in Marathi, we have Mama Varelkar, P.L. Deshpande, they were writing. Bengal was doing a very good job of playwriting. They had great actors like Chabi Biswas see, they had also one more good thing. They had a reformist movement, very good reform, anti-dowry movement, remarriage of the widows, and that used to reflect in their theatre also. Then we come into 60s and 50s, which was a period of, unfortunately, I'll tell you, we returned I don't know how, we returned back to the Western model of writing three-act plays. Your writers writing three-act plays. Jayashekhar Prasad was the only writer who wrote this long plays, but after that everybody was writing, like J.C. Mathur and many others were writing the three-act plays, which are typically Ibsenian, Strindbergian kind of realism. They were writing plays. And it continued till 70s. And I think it was only in 70s when Badal Sarkar broke it. He wrote a plays without any structure. No acts, nothing. It's a running play, and called Eva Indrajit, which became a big kind of a modern classic. Then the play came in, plays, not really plays, it came, the directors appeared now, who started reinterpreting these plays. Like Alkazi comes in, drama school is formed, new plays are, three-act play of Rakesh called Ashar Ka Ek Din is enacted in an open-air theatre, under a tree, or in these theatres. People don't get to theatre. Like Kalkasi will go to Purana Killa to do a play, or he will go to Talkotora ruins to do a play. And a new consciousness of modern theatre, modernism started coming in, which was still a Tughlaq's play, Purana Killa being used. It was still a Nehruvian kind of a model thing. But there was another model appearing in the content form, where Utpal Dutt was doing. He was writing politic plays. A lot of Bengali writers were writing politic plays. In Hindi, very little, and not of any great substance were happening. Then suddenly in 70s, what happened? In fact, we were that time students. In fact, we started asking this question: what is Indian about it? Well, they're Western models, so we're imitating them and doing like that. But then, where is the India? If I go to West and show them this play, they'll say, this is our way. What is our way? So then came a strange thing through Bertolt Brecht. We discovered that Bertolt Brecht was influenced by Asian theatre, and he wrote plays in epic drama style, which was much closer to Indian folk drama and Indian classical drama style, songs, music, etc., etc. And he put a new theory of theatre called epic theory, which was that spectator is not lured, is not sort of mesmerized and numbed his sensibility because he's watching the play. On the contrary, he should have a scientific attitude to watch the play. We should not create artificial suspenses. We should really make him like a judge in the auditorium, as if he's watching issues and he takes a decision. No, this is right, this is wrong. Brecht wrote plays like that. And those plays, when they were read here, there was a big, Brecht became a big deal that time. And after that, Brecht experts came here. I was acting both the Brecht experiment, big experiments. They were very huge experiment I was schooled with assistants of Brecht and the person who in Germany who were very, very important Brecht directors. They came and directed us, so we understood first-hand experience Brecht. And then Shanta Gandhi from IPTA, who was in IPTA, was a teacher at National School of Drama. She picks up one folk form called Bhavai, which is a Gujarati folk form, and takes the story of Jasma, a story of a labor class, laborer, which go migrant laborers, like you have today migrants. It's absolutely like that. They are leaving their village because there is no food, there is no work, and they go to another place, and the Raja likes their daughter, and etc. etc. He wants to have her, but the battle takes place, they get killed, they are finished, etc. She used Bhavai, an old folk form which today, if you see, it is not in great shape. He cleaned it like an archaeologist. We were the actors in that, and we understood what he was trying to do, and again gave us the same freedom. What I am talking of, the inherent element in Indian theatre is the sense of improvisation. So we used to all day improvise our pieces and show it to her. She will sit and say, okay, now go back, we'll do again. Oh, ma'am, you just wait for us till we do. And then there was music, which was folk music of Gujarat. When even the musicians came from there. An experiment happened, which became a path-breaking experiment. How to use tradition, old traditional theatre, which has all the elements of the classical Indian drama in it, and create a modern work of performance. And from there, a new awakening came. A lot of us went villages back. We started looking at village forms to understand them more. A lot of us lived with these people in the folk form where they are, and came back and did our own. We did like that kind of work. And then playwright, like Vijay Tendulkar, all his life he has written 3-act plays, I call them, Western model plays. Writes a play like Ghasi Ram Kotwal, which has become one of the modern classics, which is political, which is avant-garde, music, dance, drama, everything, total theatre in it. Then Girish takes from it and writes a play called Haivadan. Again, a myth, takes a myth, contemporizes a myth to the contemporary times, and with it is music, masks, all traditions we use. We use masks, we use their costumes, the old kind of costumes. Music is composed by BV Karanath. Then it became kind of everybody was involved in going to villages and working with the folk actors, folk forms. I went to Kashmir. I worked even during terrorist times. I worked with them. I produced with them Shakespeare's King Lear, which was watched by people sitting on a hillside, thousands of them watching while the agitations were going on. Therefore, we realize that any theatre, any performance will be loud and will have the energy if it is in the people's language, which people understand. And leave this colonial inferiority complex, throw it away somewhere, that no, my mother tongue, my indigenous forms don't have that capacity that we can create the most complex works. Islam a myth, it's disproved completely. Then we have another director like Ken Panikar in Kerala. He started doing Sanskrit plays in Sanskrit with his own sensibility, but using again the folk tradition of Koodiyattam and Kathakali, speech patterns and everything, and created play like Madhyamvyayo, Karanabhara. Great, path-breaking experiments happened. And now today what has happened now another stage we have gone at is that street theatre has come into existence now. Street is today the theatre which university students are using, NGOs are using it, and taking the themes which are very radical, very political, and in fact I watched one festival of this Delhi University street theatre plays, and I couldn't believe that kids could really do such kind of crafting of the play. They could imagine by using various devices and images. Now, that theatre is happening all over country. It is used in jails, it is used in hospitals, which is used in schools, and because it's easy, you don't have to need a theatre, you don't need lights, it can be done. It is, if you know how to tell you a story, there is no problem of space. You can do it anywhere. Any empty space is a space for performance. That's it. And now these days, a lot of new directors have gone into a little bit of now, because we have no bridging. East and West is meeting somewhere, we are meeting somewhere, and they create, for example, image theatre, which becomes less talking, more body and more images, which is a new genre which is breaking ground. So that is, we all do what? We go back and forth now as Kosambi had said that, you know, we live in simultaneously in all the ages. That's exactly what's happening in theatre. There's folk theatre happening, there's theatre happening, there's image theatre happening, there's street theatre happening, theatre by NGOs is happening. All are working, and today it's not only one kind of theatre that is in India. At that point, I stop. If there are any questions. Shakespearean theatre is quite different from Elizabethan theatre with the center stage. Globe theatre, my dear, your Elizabethan theatre was proscenium theatre with the curtains and other things. Globe theatre was Shakespeare's theatre, where he could do all his plays. There was a cannon being fired from the second floor, and there was a trap. And these theatres too keep a trap. But he made a theatre in different design called a Globe theatre, in which he could do all his plays which he used to write. Yeah, Bharat Durdasha, yes, I said Bharat Durdasha is really a play one should do. These plays are really remarkable plays. It is such a worth lecture. Okay, thank you. Rakesh Singh watching, thank you. He is one of my brilliant actors. Rakesh, he has acted, he must be laughing, he has acted in most of these plays which I have done. Watching. Sushma Jattu, kya baat hai? Okay. Aim of science is not to open the door to infinite wisdom, but to set the limit to infinite error. Bertolt Brecht. Oh, I have now read this. I'm illiterate. I have not read this. This quotation of whether he is talking about theatre or is talking generally about science. Brecht, he says, the aim of science is not to open the door to infinite wisdom, but to set a limit to infinite error. Ah, lovely quote. Thank you. Pushpesh Pant, very enjoyable, sustainable. Thank you, Ishan. Thank you for calling by. Where we should keep Shakuntala ki anguthi written with. He was a friend of mine, Surendra Verma. That is a spoof. And a very worthwhile spoof. It ran very well. Anguthi, thank you for joining. Can you put your points together and let us have a paper? Okay, Sushma ji, I'll try to do that. Everybody wants papers these days. Hello, sir, extremely good lecture. I want to ask you one thing. If the caveman theatre is a vocal theatre or in form of mime. You know, I'll tell you, in cave theatre, I will, as a critic or as an expert, I'll tell you, it was mime, it was. But at that time, when the development of man was at a cave stage, he was still hunting, food gathering stage. Now I give it a, I don't think I will give it. I'll call it was like a ritual in the evening. Because they were getting the food. They were celebrating food and they were distributing food because it was a tribal thing. So I wouldn't give it any modern interpretation. Leave it there where it is. Aman Khan, Koshir, Kyo kar Koshir? Thank you. Is that okay? No questions? What is the status of plays during the Mughal rule? Also, please elaborate on Parsi theatre. Oh, in Sultanate times, I don't think there was much theatre. There was of succession happening that time. If at all there was a theatre of the folk theatre, what you see. And for example, at that time also, the Banaras Ramlila would be happening. Those kind of theatre. There was no any kind of a new script being written, or they were interested more in music. You know, Mahfil came in, ghazals came in, new genres came in, and at that time, because rulers were not Indians, they were foreigners, and what they would be interested in really the leisure. And I don't think, excepting Wajid Ali Shah, which is much later, who was interested in culture and other things, or in South. There were some rulers in the court of Tanjavur court who were interested. But they were also, you see, understand another thing. Rulers, to me, it's my interpretation, as I said, I'm not a historian. They were, that time, patrons of Devadasis. That was their concept of improvisation. They were kept in the temple, and when they reach puberty, they will be sleeping with the rich man there, and then they will be there, and then they'll be thrown away. Yalama, there are still some Yalamas in, it is banned now. The girl will be, and another thing which is very important to understand, all these folk people who have kept our tradition alive are not Brahmins, are not Kshatris, not Vaishya, they are the lower castes. Therefore, we have to thank them that they kept this tradition alive. Otherwise, it would have disappeared altogether. Like Sanskrit drama, it disappeared. We don't know exactly how Sanskrit drama was being done. After all, it was being done in many places. Kashmir had a center, Calcutta has it, Karnataka, Kerala had one also in Assam also. But at least here we have still got a living tradition with us, with all its changes and distortions that's there. So I would say at Sultanate period, no, Mughal royals not much. Mughals were interested in that time in more translating of them, our scriptures from one language to another. There was more scholarly intellectual work happening, like Dara Shukut created a whole center of translation where they will translate great works of Persian scholars to in Sanskrit. It was Sanskrit, it was not peoples, sorry. That time there was nothing like peoples. Peoples were left somewhere for taxes to pay, and they could entertain themselves, which they did. They did not care about Brahmins when they did not let them get into those temple theatres. They did not bother about sultans. They were quietly doing their own. They were entertaining themselves. They were doing their plays. And it was a real people's theatre. And was it? Very your presentation is pretty much engrossing. You know, I have a story that will end with this all. It was so interesting. That the story which I told you, I'll tell you, there's a divine story. And that story is, how did Natyashastra come in? So everything in Indian Hindu tradition comes from the God, straight. There's a highway, from there it comes to us. And there's a story that in the heavens, in the Swarga, Devatas were having great time, they were happy, the Devata is Devata. But when they got bored, they had nothing to do, everything was looked after, and they were a privileged people. So they went to Brahma one day, said, look, we have nothing to do, we have to do something for us. We're getting here. About it, a sage who had called Bharata, he called me, he said, can you do something for these people to keep them a little busy, they are bored. So he thought about it and he created a play. And when he created a play, and it had to be performed, so Devatas were there invited and they came to see the play. Now what can be the content material for this play? Devatas. That you are useless, you do nothing. And it was critiquing them. And they got so upset about it, they ransacked the entire stage. So there was a big riot, this happened, and finally they went to Brahma, and Brahma said, what the hell has happened? He said, about Bharata, he says, he is very smart. You give him all the privileges of the Devata. He is like one of us, but and then he pulls our leg and he criticizes us. So at that point, Bharata said that this is, what else can I do? This is my material. Then he said, okay, I'll do something about it. Then he, from the four Vedas, Rigved, Samved, he picked up few elements from Rigved, Samved, Yajurved and Atharved. One is a Vachik. He took this ritual, he took music and other things from this and created the fifth Veda, which is called Natya Veda. And Natya Veda is Natya Shastra. That is the part. Natya Shastra, he was very smart, Brahma. Brahma knew that these Brahmins and these Devatas will do something hanky-panky with it. What he did, he said, but remember, this is New Veda, Natya Veda, which is for all castes. So you cannot monopolize it. So that's how folk people could use it their own way, and Devatas and the Brahmins and Kshatriyas could use it their own temples, and the elements, the essence of Natya Veda and has come to us today only because of the people who had rebelled then. because at one point when they do another play again, there is a protest, and then finally it is decided that all these Bharata's children and actors should be put on one Viman and sent to Dharti. So they are in Dharti. So all theatre people are basically thrown out of the Swarga because they ask questions, they criticize, they make satire, and that is the essence of theatre. Theatre is basically, it is DNA, is asking questions, evaluating, questioning status quo, talking about the times, talking about the changes that are taking place. It's almost like a third eye of Shiva. Thank you. Done?